So this episode of Tokyo Ghoul, we get a massive amount of information and stuff I asked last week. All the different questions I had last week and the different theories I had about Kaneki, if ghouls can eat ghouls, and at the same time, what happens if a ghoul and a human got together and tried to have a baby. All these different questions were answered this week, and honestly, I'm quite stunned that these questions were answered the week after I asked those questions. So anyways, this episode had a lot of information anyone that enjoys the anime so far will enjoy. Now, personally from this episode, from an anime-only watcher such as myself, I've enjoyed the episode. There was a lot of plot development and progression in this episode. It felt like the animation was consistent. I loved the point of the way the episode ended off of, and I love all the characters that were introduced this episode. Now, I don't know from a standpoint how the manga readers feel about this episode. So, please clarify me, all you manga readers, how is this episode being adapted? Because I always ask that question. I'm curious exactly how faithful Tokyo Ghoul is being to the manga. So anyways, beginning on this review. So, the entire ghoul bit, like right at the beginning of this episode in the middle section, we see Kaneki in this bar, and he's talking to these fellow ghouls, and we find out that if a human and a ghoul try to get together and have a baby, it's unlikely to happen. It's like very low chances you'll have a child. But at the same time, if you were to get pregnant, okay, most likely the child will die and you'll have a miscarriage before the child's ever born, and it would kill the mother that is pregnant. So right there, really interesting development we have there, along with finding out that if the half-human, half-ghoul does survive through the pregnancy, and the parents do survive, it will be born with one eye, for instance, like Kaneki. So right here, this sets up something very, like, deadly for the future. For instance, this entire development we had with finding out that there's another person like Kaneki that has one eye, and they say, I wonder exactly how he is, I wonder if he's like Kaneki. That just goes to show you probably at the end of Season 1 of Tokyo Ghoul, we're probably going to get to see this kid or a girl or boy, whoever it is, probably fight Kaneki, or they might be similar, I don't know. Most likely the way they're setting up this one-eyed ghoul, he's probably going to be the antagonist, I have no idea. It could help out Kaneki, I don't know. But the big thing here is, okay, is that this ghoul that has one eye was born from human and ghoul parents, but Kaneki, on the other hand, is a different ghoul entirely, because technically he had organs transplanted inside of him that caused him to turn half ghoul. And so, I wonder what would happen if, you know, for instance, ghouls found out about this. They can make more of their kind. I could see how this might, you know, affect later on down the road, like how, certain villains, okay, would like to make more ghouls and turn humanity into nothing but ghouls. I see something like that happening. For instance, I'll start transplanting freaking ghoul organs inside of people to try to make them turn into one of them. I could see that happening, which would be really interesting if that does. But besides that, okay, we get Hisoka 2.0 this episode. This character, Shu, the red suit man, that is fucking Hisoka. Come on. Come on. Anyone, you can't disagree with that. I mean, his facial expressions, his demeanor, the way his voice actor betrays the character, his face when he just gets all freaking lewd, like he's like, you know, getting all happy and stuff. He just reminds me so much of Hisoka. I mean, it looks like he's just licking his lips every time he sees Kaneki, and he's like, oh, he's so delicious. That's something you would see Hisoka say to Gon in Hunter x Hunter. So it's really disturbing if you think about it like that. But at the same token, it made me like Shu's character a lot more because the personalities are so similar between Hisoka and this dude. But overall, I liked the character introduction. It was very interesting getting to see him, especially with how he has so many different freaking titles. I mean, he has like 4 or 5 names, I think. So, my god, why does this dude have so many names? It goes to show you how high up in status he probably is in the Ghoul world or the 20th Ward. Now, one thing though that was very interesting about Shu's character is that he knew and was acquainted with Rise, the first girl from the first episode that tried to eat Kaneki. Now, what's cool about this is, it seems like he has some form of grudge against her. It's because he loves to make exquisite dishes, but Rise says that it was stupid that he was trying to make these type of dishes and pretty much put him down for it. And so, in turn, that caused him to get very upset at Rise and probably wanted to strangle her. You could see that in this episode when he breaks the coffee cup while Kaneki and him are sitting down at the table, which right there in turn shows you that he has a major grudge against Rise, and I wonder what would happen if he finds out that Rise's organs are inside of Kaneki. I wonder what would happen there. But at the end of this episode, it's actually Shu that saves Kaneki, even though Kaneki was put in that situation in this gladiator food tournament or food fight or whatever you want to call it, okay? And you see, you know, at the end it looks like Kaneki is about to die, all hope is lost. You have it to where Kaneki's eyes revealed that he's a one-eyed ghoul, and you have Shu jump down and save Kaneki, and he says, I'm not going to give this to no one else, I'm not going to share it. So it clearly shows that he wants to eat Kaneki by himself. Now, let's get into the other thing that was actually answered. My questions that I asked last week, if a ghoul can eat a ghoul, I asked, is it possible? It was answered this episode, and supposedly ghouls can eat ghouls. They can. But the problem here is that they taste like shit. That's exactly what I got from this episode after the ghouls were talking about it, but it is possible to eat them. But supposedly, since Kaneki has, you know, human blood inside of him too, his taste and aroma is completely different, which puts him up as a delicacy for any ghouls that want exquisite dishes. For instance, you know, Shu in this episode. So, Kaneki right now is just a moving freaking dinner plate. That's exactly what he is, because he's just so rare. It's a rare dish. I say it's a rare dish or something that you can barely get. It costs like $800. That is exactly what Kaneki is at this moment. He's just something so rare, only the top nobles can probably buy or get. But here's the thing, how rare is Kaneki? That is the big question. I mean, we found out that there's one other ghoul with one eye. But is there others besides just one other? For instance, is there only 2 one-eyed ghouls, or is there more? Because judging by Nishio from episode 1, the way he talked about Kaneki, how it was creepy with his one eye, I mean, he must have seen something about this before. So, I highly doubt there's only 2 one-eyed ghouls. There has to be more out there. And they probably have different, you know, I guess, goals in mind. Because, I mean, since these one-eyed ghouls are technically half human, half ghoul, it makes you think that maybe they're hybrids and they can eat human food. Because this makes me believe the reason why I want to bring this up is because in this episode we see Toka at school, at high school I'm guessing. She's having fun, eating lunch with her friend, and she's forced to eat human food. And this girl, her friend, gives her a little bit of food and she eats it, and then she goes to the bathroom and tries to throw it up. But in turn, she doesn't throw it up, she actually forces her body to digest it, since her friend technically made it for her. She respected her friend's wish. So it shows you ghouls can, like, digest human food, but it has bad impacts on their health. I don't know exactly what yet, but it probably weakens them, makes them sick, probably gives them food poison. That's what I can probably see happening if you eat bad food. So I want to say most likely right now, if you eat human food, you might as well be eating poison and you're having food poison into your body. So that's what I want to say now. But is it possible, since technically Kaneki is a human, can he eat human food? For instance, it may taste like shit. Okay, let's just be honest here. It probably does taste like shit, and it does. It's been confirmed. But is it possible that even though it tastes like shit, can, you know, Kaneki survive off of it? That's the big question. I mean, can he survive off it? If he looks past the taste, can he survive off of human food? Because he does technically have human organs when he began. So, it all depends on there, because I know there's going to be more things behind, you know, half human, half ghoul, because it has to have both sides helping it out. And at the same time, we find out that one-eyed ghouls are more superior to regular ghouls. They're stronger. For instance, in this episode, we see Kaneki just do boom and knock that fucking big fat ass dude that has all muscular and all that and trying to butcher Kaneki this episode. So, the big thing that's brought up in this episode is multiple questions are answered with the babies, the ghouls can eat ghouls. At the same time, we find out about more one-eyed ghouls, and we see, you know, Shu's character introduction. Toka shows that she cares about her human friends, and there's a lot of different things going on here. So this episode overall was a positive episode that progressed the overall plot. I like the character development. I love getting to see the talks about Kaneki in his books, because this is something that hasn't really been brought up a lot in the anime. Because if you know by now, I did a comparison review between chapters 1 and 9, and they really cut out Kaneki's inner self when it comes to reading books, and I'm glad they went back to this and tried to develop more into his character with books with Shu this episode. So overall, tell me your thoughts about this episode of Tokyo Ghoul. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What's your favorite moments about it? I love all of you so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.